you are in for a treat today. So welcome to our therapy break. So my name is Anissa Mitchell, and I'm the Vice President of Programs with PMD Alliance. And with us today is Tracy Wosaba. She is a certified meditation and mindfulness instructor and a yoga teacher specializing in yoga for Parkinson's. She is a founder of Winter Park Meditation and Mindfulness, and I've actually had the privilege of working with Tracy before. She's done some meditation and mindful practices or a practice program with me in the past. So I've had the benefit of hearing from her, and she's going to be talking to you guys today about, what it is and how to implement it into your everyday life, even if you're stuck at home and you're busy. You don't feel like you have any margin in your time to do meditation. I actually heard a quote that you should meditate for 20 minutes a day unless you're too busy, and then you should meditate for like an hour. So she's going to explain not only the benefits to our bodies and our minds just from a relaxation standpoint, but some of the neuroscience behind it, which is actually quite fascinating. So we're going to have some practice as well as some education in regards to this. So we want you to kind of get in a comfortable place so that you can really lean in and listen to what she has to say, but then also she's going to walk us through some practice. Feel free to chat your questions. And if we have time at the end, we'll allow you an opportunity to unmute and ask some questions. So we'll kind of just play that by ear, but feel free to chat questions as you go also, and I'll kind of monitor those and help get those answered. So anyways, I want to welcome you, Tracy, to our therapy break today. I'm going to pass this off to you, and I would love for you to just kind of start off first by telling people a little bit about how you got into this and then what you have to share with us today.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here with all your lovely faces. It's so nice to see someone without a mask on during these times, for sure. So I have been practicing meditation and mindfulness in my own life since 2006. I was at a point in my life where on paper I had the life of my dream, but I wasn't sleeping well at night. My digestion was hugely affected, and I just really didn't have an overall enjoyment of life like I should have. We were living in Scottsdale, Arizona at the time. For those that are familiar with Scottsdale, we lived in McDowell Mountain Ranch. We back to the mountains. There's nothing I enjoy more than hiking. And so literally I could walk out my back door and I was right there on the trails, which was awesome. I love. But again, my stress was out of control, to say the least. So I found a 5-day Panchakarma program, Panchakarma Perfect Health Program. For those that are familiar with Deepak Chopra, medical doctor, mind, body, spirit pioneer, I got in my car and, well, I signed up, of course, first, and then I got in my car and I drove over there to Carlsbad, California. And it was in those 5 days that I learned how to meditate. And for the first time in my life, I was able to connect with the silence and stillness that had always lied beneath all of my life's very tumultuous experiences, as a trauma survivor, especially. So it was in that moment of peace, my life was forever changed. And so it's been since July of 2006, I've been practicing meditation and mindfulness in my own life. I worked for 20 years in the corporate world, and then 2017, while living in Winter Park, Florida, I went and became a certified meditation and mindfulness instructor myself. Actually, my training is through McLean Meditation Institute. And for those that are familiar with Deepak Chopra, where I attended the training was actually with what used to be Deepak Chopra's Director of Education for many years. And as Anissa mentioned, I'm also a registered yoga teacher, and I had the pleasure of working with a group that she previously worked with in Florida and did a combination meditation and mindfulness chair yoga class, as well as some other training. So It's truly my passion and my honor to share these tools, these life-changing, life-enhancing tools with each and every one of you. So that's a little bit about me. And so let's get started. I think, especially since we're living in COVID times, we'll kind of do a little bit of a combination of things, but I think I'd like to start with a guided visualization meditation. And then we're going to do a more relaxation meditation a little bit later. We're going to talk about, in addition to the science of meditation and mindfulness and how it affects the brain and the body and so on and so forth. I'm also going to share some mindful momentum moment peace finder activities that can be implemented even 1 to 2 minutes a day, as well as some more formal and informal practices. So have some fun together today. So I invite you all to move into a comfortable seated position in this moment, whatever that looks like for you. And let's begin today by giving yourself 3 long, slow, deep cleansing breaths. And if it feels comfortable for you, maybe begin to close your eyes as you take your 3 long, slow, deep cleansing breaths, or just a nice downward gaze. Now allowing your breathing to return to its natural rhythm and depth, I invite you to bring your awareness to each area in which your body meets the surface upon which you're sitting. Maybe noticing areas of heaviness and lightness as you go. And if your feet reach the floor, I invite you to feel your feet firmly planted on the floor. I now invite you to bring to mind, to see, feel, or imagine a happy place, either real or imagined, maybe in nature, maybe in a special room in your home, or somewhere else that you've traveled to. And as you're in that place, I invite you to look around, maybe noticing any colors in your environment, maybe noticing any sounds in that special place. And as you do, I invite you to notice any thoughts, feelings, or emotions that may be arising within you. And if your mind wanders, no worries. Simply bring it back to the scene in your happy place. I now invite you to bring your awareness to maybe any smells in your happy place, or maybe even any feelings, including any air on your skin that you might see, feel, or imagine in that place. Now, if you don't already have a body of water in your happy place, I invite you to see, feel, or imagine a beautiful body of water in front of you. Maybe that's a lake, maybe that's the ocean, maybe that's a waterfall, or something else in between. And as you sit on the bank of that body of water, I invite you to check in with yourself for a moment and to recognize, what is it that you feel you need more of in this moment in your life? Maybe that's more relaxation, more peace, more acceptance, or anything else. No rights or wrongs here, just what you need in this moment. And whatever that item or those items are, I invite you to see, feel, or imagine them infused in that beautiful body of water. And then I invite you to gently step into that water and allow those things that you need in this moment to reach every cell of your being. as you wade in the water, maybe splash in the water, and just be with this moment in the water. I now invite you to begin stepping out on the other side, on the banks of the water, still in your happy place. And now begin to connect again with your breath. Maybe noticing any subtle changes in your breathing now from the time we began a few moments ago. I'd like you to begin to deepen your breath and notice the areas of inhalation and exhalation as you breathe. Letting that scene go, I now invite you to begin to connect and to any sounds in your environment. Noticing sounds both near and far. Maybe even noticing the sound of your own breath as you breathe. Now letting that go, I invite you to gently begin to wiggle your fingers, your toes, your wrists, and your ankles. And to slowly begin to bring your awareness back to the space in which you're sitting at this moment in time. And gently and slowly open your eyes when you're ready. Okay, I'm going to begin to share the screen now.
All right, hopefully everyone's still awake.
There we go. And I hope everyone can hear me okay. If someone can't hear me, do the universal ear, I can't hear you sign, please. And Anissa, please let me know because I'm no longer able to see every single person.
You are coming through loud and clear.
Okay, great. So let's begin by talking about what is meditation and mindfulness. So meditation and mindfulness both has origins in yogic tradition. It's been around for nearly 5,000 years. And the word meditation originated from the word mederi, which means to heal. My definition of meditation is it's a practice, both modern and ancient technique, that when regularly practiced, calms the nervous system and builds a brain that's more focused, engaged, aware, more responsive and less reactive. It's also a form of considered now complementary and alternative medicine because it does help regulate and calm the nervous system, and because of neuroplasticity has been scientifically proven to build a better brain. And it's also a limb of yoga. So for those of you that are out there that have a regular practice of yoga, so often when we think of yoga, we think of the postures, the asanas practice of yoga. But meditation and mindfulness are two of the 8 limbs of yoga. Pranayama is another one. And of course, the postures. So they're kind of probably the 4 most popular that people are most familiar with. Mindfulness is both a type of meditation as well as a way of living in which we're fully engaged in what we're doing when we're doing it without judgment, but instead with a sense of curiosity and openness and acceptance and loving kindness and compassion, self-compassion as well. So in short, it's a practice of present moment awareness, again, considered complementary and alternative medicine, and in fact, a limb of yoga. There are many, many benefits of meditation and mindfulness: physical benefits, emotional benefits, mental benefits, spiritual benefits. But I'm just going to name a few here on this slide, and that is to reduce and alleviate stress. And actually, for those that have a regular practice of meditation and mindfulness, it's often said that it builds tone in the nervous system, because when we experience moments of stress and we get off balance, it allows us to return to what our normal is more quickly. It helps reduce anxiety and depression. It rebuilds specific areas of the brain and allows our body to pump out those happy healing hormones. serotonin is certainly one of them, which is so often off when we experience anxiety and other forms of depression. It allows us to build awareness and surrounding our needs, our wants, our boundaries, and our limitations. So because we're with ourselves in the moment, it allows us to connect to those things. And so important, especially during COVID time, and not only to know our own needs, our wants, our boundaries and limitations, but also to appropriately share those things with others, to better allow us to connect with our everyday joy. Again, allows us to build a better brain. Specifically, areas of the brain most affected are the prefrontal cortex, which is that logic, reason, ration, planning, carrying out a plan. The newest and highest level of the brain, the thinking portion of the brain. It allows us to rebuild the hippocampus, which is responsible for learning, memory, converting short-term memory into long-term memory, amongst other things. And also it shrinks the amygdala, which is the emotional reactivity center of the brain. Allows us to improve focus. And by the way, the focus that we learn and practice in meditation and other forms of mindfulness allows us to, carries over into everyday life and living. It improves mental clarity, balance, balance in everyday life. And I'm going to say both physical and mental balance on that one. It helps us improve relationships first and foremost with ourselves, because we're more in tune with ourselves in the moment. So often when we are, in the past or in the future, we're really not in touch with life. I love the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh quote that says, "The past is gone, the future is not yet here. If we do not get back in touch with ourselves in the present moment, we cannot be in touch with life. Life is happening right here, right now, right here, right now." It helps us improve immunity, especially important for times like this today. Sleep, digestion, weight management, productivity, and performance. It allows us to balance blood sugar and blood pressure. It allows us to build and implement the best self-care plan, because again, we're tapped into our own inner world, right? So we can better create our own self-plan that works for us. It allows us to process emotions in real time and to better navigate through grief. In these times, right, that we're going through, especially right now with COVID, I don't know, it seems like everything is heightened, everything is exacerbated, and never before in my lifetime have I had to be so with myself, right? And I was talking to a lot of people, they kind of experience the same thing. So, it's being so in touch with oneself in these moments. Sometimes grief does come up, and life is a series of beginnings and endings. So again, allows us to process emotion in real time, and it improves overall health and well-being. I do want to mention additional benefits for Parkinson's, and this is based on a few studies that have been done specifically for Parkinson's. In the studies, it's been noted that cognition has been improved, as well as motor functions, decrease in tremors, reduction in off episodes, decrease in stress and depression, and reduce muscle tension and improve overall balance. So I want to talk just a moment about the science of stress. And the stress response, although it gets a bad rap, although it was originally in our body for a life-saving mechanism. So the portion of our brain most often associated with stress is kind of the midbrain portion. And with that said, when we were living in times of old, when it was eat or be eaten, when we're running on the plains and a saber-toothed tiger jumps out, we stabbed that saber-toothed tiger and saved our lives, or eat ate us kind of thing. But obviously we don't have those times in today's day and age. However, we're still operating from that older portion of the brain when it comes to stress and the stress response. So whether the stressor is real or imagined, our body responds and reacts the same way. So again, another reason why it's so important to be in touch with ourselves in the present moment and with the practice of mindfulness, because we can recognize and have that moment or even that second to take a long, slow, deep breath in between the stimulus and the response and activate that prefrontal cortex. And in turn, we're building a better brain, because every time we're laying down new neural pathways, right? And again, this is based on science. It's worth mentioning here, I think, that most of the studies surrounding meditation began in the 90s, and a lot of them are using functional MRIs. They have, in a lot of cases, also they'll put a little skull cap on and electrodes and so on and so forth, and they're actually seeing certain areas of the brain relax and other areas of the brain come online. And the majority of the studies surrounding building the better brain are done with meditators that are meditating on average 20 to 40 minutes a day for as little as 8 weeks. And because of the neuroplasticity of the brain, science and scientists are showing the changes in as little as 8 weeks. And certainly, in addition to a formal practice, which we'll do another little mini formal practice together later on in our time together here in this hour, practicing everyday mindfulness and everyday activities also makes a big difference. And we'll get more into that in a moment. But when that, the opposite, of course, of the stress response is the relaxation response. And often when we're in that stress response, we're operating in the sympathetic nervous system. Also, I like to think of it as the gas pedal, but also so often known as the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism in our body. And then on the flip side, the relaxation response, which we can activate even through breathing and so on and so forth. It's very, it's even breathing, for example, is a wonderful exercise that helps activate the parasympathetic nervous system, also known as the rest and digest, feed and breathe, tend and befriend nervous system. That's kind of like the brake pedal. And if you've ever heard of an individual getting in a state of freeze, that's kind of when the gas pedal and the brake pedal are pressed at the same time. So again, practices like mindfulness practices and breathing and so on and so forth actually activate the 10th cranial nerve, which is known as the vagus nerve in our body. It connects to our brain stem, and it winds and reaches every major organ in our body, and it allows us to help and calm down. Also worth noting here, I think, is the enteric nervous system, also known as the second brain. And again, that helps in digestion as well. There are hundreds of types of meditation out there. And I like the 3 ingredients and 5 essentials. And this is actually taken from one of my teachers, Sarah McLean, was commissioned to use for this presentation. She likes to say there's 3 ingredients to every type of meditation, in spite of what the focus is. It's having a focus. And again, the focus can really be anything. It can be a meal that you're eating. It can be washing dishes. It can be walking. It can be showering or cleansing your face. It could even be staring at the paint on the wall if you like that color, for example. But it could be a little bit of everything. Having a focus, your non-judgmental attention, and a resolve or the willingness to stick with the practice for the duration of time. So for example, if I'm doing a walking meditation, my duration of time begins when I leave my house and shut the door, and it ends when I come back. For individuals that have a regular sitting practice of meditation, I also often recommend a non-jarring timer. Insight meditation timer is one of my absolute favorites, and I just use the timer for that. And again, it's very gentle, it's very calm, and it gives you a starting and an ending point. The 5 essentials of any meditation, in spite of what type of meditation it is it's okay to have thoughts. I hear so many people that say, oh, I'd love to be able to meditate, but I have too many thoughts to think. And that's right. It's the nature of the mind to think, just like it's the nature of the eyes to see. And meditation isn't about stopping the thoughts, it's about interrupting the thoughts. And the second essential is letting go of expectations. So and again, these are wonderful aspects for life too, right? Just being with the practice and allowing to arise, whatever may arise in that moment, not trying too hard. And an example I'd like to give for this is, I invite you right now to bring your awareness to your right hand, to your left hand, to your right foot, and to your left foot. That's the level of effort that's required in meditation. It's that easy. Be kind to yourself always. Every meditation, every mindfulness practice is different. And again, just meeting yourself where you are, being extra kind to yourself where you are, and giving yourself a level of empathy and compassion that you would give to your own best friend. And sticking with the practice, that's the last one. So for the duration of period of time that you've allotted. How meditation works: thoughts are interrupted and the mind settles down. It allows you to have accessibility to more subtle levels of thinking. And also what's happening in the brain is the brain wave patterns move from a busy brainwave state, theta brainwave state, to a more calm, relaxed alpha theta state, and sometimes delta. Meditation and mindfulness can be practiced both formally and informally. And also, another really important aspect is making everyday activities a practice in mindfulness. And the body is always an anchor to the present moment. So really by engaging the five senses is a wonderful way to do that. I want to read to you something that actually was in the manual when back in 2006 when I attended the Chopra Center, but I love this. It says, life is an interplay between the environment, body, mind, and soul. The five sense organs, our ears, skin, eyes, tongue, and nose, are the gateways through which we experience the world. Just as our bodily tissues are created from the food we eat, the composition of our mind is created out of sensory impressions. The quality of these impressions determines the quality of our thoughts and our feelings. Sounds, feelings, sights, taste, and smells can also be used to balance, nourish, and heal. And that's always been so meaningful to me. I've always kind of kept that in the back of my mind. And with a practice of mindfulness, especially in times that are stressful, obviously, especially here in the United States, we've had a lot that has gone on this year in 2020, but certainly I think everyone is feeling something worldwide. So again, with that practice of mindfulness, being able to connect with your breath in the moment, and making a conscious choice of, is this thought working for me in this moment? And if not, and do I believe it, frankly? And if not, having the opportunity to change that thought, to change, whatever that is. Making mindfulness activities everyday activities a practice in mindfulness. So I'll give you a few examples of that. So whether you're maybe at a doctor's appointment and having to sit in the waiting room, again, connecting with your breath, feeling the surface beneath you, feeling your feet on the floor. And also gratitude is another practice that is so, so powerful. It actually activates parts of the brain associated with empathy and compassion and good things. And it has the ability to move us from a state of lack to a state of abundance in the moment. And at this point, in mindful momentum practices, I'm going to kind of flip-flop in between these two things, and I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen because I'm going to ask you all to join me in a few things as I talk some more. So let's actually practice a few what I call mindful momentum moments together. So I invite you all to move into a comfortable seated position again, whatever that looks like for you in this moment, and to simply connect to your breath. Feeling it move in and out of your body. Maybe noticing the gentle pause in between the inhalations and the exhalations. Now with the breath, I invite you, I'm going to put one hand over my heart space and the other hand on top to see, feel, or imagine breathing in and out of that beautiful heart space area. I now invite you to bring to mind, and maybe a smile to your face, 3 things for which you're grateful in this moment. Now letting that go, allowing your hands to return to your lap. That's an example of one peace finder activity. Another one that I really like, I call it my 3, 3, and 3, and that's taking 3 long, slow, deep cleansing breaths. We can do that together if you'd like. Relaxing 3 body parts. See, feel, or imagine relaxing 3 body parts. For me, in this moment, I'm going to choose my jaw, my shoulders, and my hips, but feel free to choose whatever works for you. And letting that go, lastly, connect to 3 things for which you're grateful and trying to choose some different things this time. And now letting that go. And by the way, science has proven that even trying to find 3 things for which you're grateful activates the parts of the brain that the pleasure centers of the brain, even if you don't access anything right then in that moment. Another Peace Finder activity or mindful momentum moment that I'd like to share today is, and this one we can do with our eyes open, simply connect with 3 things that you see in your environment. And as you do so, maybe notice any thoughts, feelings, emotions, or stories that are coming to mind. Now connecting with 2 things that you hear. One of them can be the sound of my voice. Connecting with one other thing as well. And lastly, I invite you to connect with one thing you feel, and that could be your breath moving in and out of your body. That could be a sensation, an emotion. It could be your body meeting the surface upon which you're sitting. And now letting that go. Again, the body's always an anchor to the present moment, and I will send Anissa a handout for after class with some of these practices. So don't feel like you have to be writing like mad to actually remember all of those. You know, another few that I'd love to share is actually, was it yesterday morning? Yes, I think it was yesterday morning. My morning mindfulness practice was turning on some of my favorite tunes and dancing around the kitchen like no one was watching. The biggest smile on my face and just allowing any thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories to surface and just paying gratitude to those moments. Like at one point I even started crying because I was so happy doing it. And I was even incorporating some big, large stretches to stimulate the ATP in the cells. So singing, dancing, looking at photos that are near and dear to you. And kind of like when we started out, we did a little guided visualization, seeing and feel or imagining being back in that place. You know, especially during COVID times right now where we might not be able to travel like we once did, right? Or if we have certain limitations that's not allowing us to do so. Again, pulling out some pictures from those trips and seeing, feeling, imagining being in them, recognizing when, remembering what did you hear, what did you feel, maybe even what you tasted, you know, some wonderful food that you ate there, and any scents or anything like that that may come to mind. But again, that's just an example of some mindful momentum peace finder activities that really can be done anytime, anywhere. Even if we're driving in the car, for example, or even when we first get in the car, taking the time to take a few long, slow, deep breaths and literally feel the seat beneath you and your feet on the floor, and maybe the air on your skin, for example, if you have the heat or the air conditioner on, can really bring us back in the moment and allow us to move forward in our cars in a whole new way. So everyday activities, so such as cooking. I know a lot of people love to cook. So actually, for those that really enjoy cooking, our bodies are so innately and finely tuned that science tells us our digestion actually begins when we first look at and begin to touch the food. And I'm going to give you an example of that. If you, and even bringing to mind now, maybe your favorite food, you might notice your mouth beginning to water, right? To salivate. Again, that's those digestive enzymes beginning to work in our bodies. So again, I always advise to start out by a few long, slow, deep cleansing breaths, feeling your feet on the floor. So for cooking example, for mindfulness, as you're picking up the food, feeling the food in your hands, noticing the texture, the colors, the temperatures, and even, you know, as you use your utensils, whether you're chopping or whatever you're doing, and then and feeling those things, noticing any thoughts, feelings, emotions, and the brain is constantly making associations, right? So again, you might think of, oh, I remember when I made this for my mother or my father or my friend or whatever. Again, being with those things and then returning back to the moment, noticing the smells, and just noticing what's going on in your body and really being in the zone. That's a good way to practice mindfulness with cooking. Another example, cleaning. For example, I actually, believe it or not, enjoy cleaning more than I enjoy cooking, but I can tell you, I get in such a meditative state when I'm vacuuming. So again, I'm relaxing my body. I'm fully arriving in that moment with all of my senses. And it actually becomes an enjoyable experience for me. And I just allow whatever needs to surface in that moment just to surface. And again, like we talked about with thoughts, sometimes thoughts arising are simply stress leaving the body and the nervous system, and not even necessarily about what we're stressed about in that moment. What we I think of stress like dust in the nervous system, and often just like dust on a coffee table, until it's thick enough, we literally can write our name in it. We might not even notice that it's there. So again, this is a preventative practice. When we're bathing is another great way to practice everyday mindfulness. So again, as we're stepping in the shower or the bathtub, feeling the water on our skin, feeling the suds, smelling the suds, and so on and so forth. And again, just being with ourselves in the moment. So they're kind of the examples of some everyday mindfulness practices I have for right now, and certainly that can carry over into everyday life. If you all have any questions when we get to the time with questions and you want more specific examples, by all means, please ask. But really, and I'm going to go back once again to the body is always an anchor to the present moment. So connecting with the five senses is a beautiful way to bring ourselves back into the moment. So I think at this point, I would like to guide you all through another meditation, and then we'll have some time for questions at the end. I have 4:37 here, my time, so 23 minutes left. I think this meditation is probably going to be about 10 minutes. But if you all have any questions, if they're not already in the chat box, by all means, please keep them in mind, and then we'll go from there. So with that, I invite you once again to move into a comfortable seated position and to begin to connect with your breath. Maybe noticing areas of inhalation and exhalation as you breathe. Maybe noticing how the breath feels a little cooler, on the inhalation and warmer on the exhalation, or something else altogether. I now invite you to bring your awareness to where you feel the breath moving in and out of your body the most. Is that your belly, your chest, your shoulders, or something else altogether? Again, no rights or wrongs here. I now invite you to bring your awareness to the gentle pauses in between the inhalation and the exhalation. Now letting that go, I invite you to connect to any sounds you might be noticing in your environment. Noticing how the sounds arise from the silence and return to the silence, much like the sound of my voice. Now letting that go, I invite you to bring your awareness to the scalp of your head and to see, feel, or imagine relaxing, releasing any tension in your scalp. Now relaxing your forehead and the space in between your eyebrows. Now your right eye, your left eye, and both eyes at the same time. And now I'd like you to bring your awareness to and relax your right ear, your left ear, and both ears at the same time. Now bringing your awareness to and releasing any tension in your jaw, in your teeth, and your tongue, in your chin, in your nose, now the front of your neck, the back of your neck, the sides of your neck, and your entire neck. Now bringing your awareness to and relaxing your entire head and neck. Now bringing your awareness to and releasing any tension you might be holding in your right shoulder and shoulder blade, your right upper arm, both top and bottom, your right elbow, your right lower arm, both top and bottom, your right wrist, the right palm of your hand, the right back of your hand, and each of your fingers beginning with your right thumb, now your right forefinger, your right middle finger, your right ring finger, and your right pinky. Now bringing your awareness to relaxing your entire right arm a little bit more, from shoulder to fingertips. Now bringing your awareness to and noticing any subtle differences in between the feeling of your right arm and your left arm. Now bringing your awareness to and relaxing your left shoulder and shoulder blade, your left upper arm, both top and bottom, your left elbow, your left lower arm, both top and bottom, your left wrist, the left palm of your hand, the left back of your hand, and each of your fingers on your left hand beginning with your thumb. And now your forefinger, and now your middle finger, and now your ring finger, and now your pinky. Now bringing your awareness to once more your entire left arm, allowing it to relax even more. I now like you to bring your awareness to your right arm and your left arm at the same time, and maybe even relaxing even more. I now invite you to bring your awareness to your upper back, releasing any tension that might be held there. Now your mid back and your lower back. Now bringing your awareness to releasing any tension in your upper chest, your mid chest, your belly, your waist, your hips, your buttocks, and each of your legs, beginning with the thighs, both front and back, the knees, the calves and shins, the tops of your feet, the balls of your feet, the arches of your feet, the heels, and your toes. I now invite you to see or imagine a beautiful light above your head. Maybe it's a golden white light, or maybe another color of your choice, maybe your favorite color. And I invite you to see, feel, or imagine on the next few breaths, breathing in that color throughout your whole body, maybe allowing your body to relax even more. Allowing it to wash over every cell of your being. And out through the bottoms of your feet. And letting that go, I invite you to begin to deepen your breath just a little bit. Maybe even noticing any slight energetic changes in your body. Maybe noticing a little more space has been created to breathe a little more freely, or something else altogether. Again, no rights or wrongs here. It's your practice. Now I invite you to begin to reconnect to any sounds in your environment. Noticing sounds both near and far. Maybe even noticing the sound of your own breath. And now I invite you to bring your awareness back to each area in which your body meets the surface upon your sitting, and noticing the support offered by that surface. Maybe even noticing where you begin and end, the amount of space you take up in space. And when you're ready, I invite you to begin to wiggle your fingers, your toes, your wrists, and your ankles, and to slowly and gently return to the room and open your eyes if your eyes were closed. How was that for everyone? Thumbs up, neutral, thumbs down. Awesome.
I'm very relaxed.
Awesome. Very good. So, Anissa, do we have any questions?
I want to give the ability to enable people to unmute themselves. David wrote, any suggestions for when attention seems to remain focused on pain in a particular body part? And that's really good, because I was actually going to ask you about how meditation and relaxation, deep breathing, all of those things can help mitigate pain.
Yes, that's a great question, David. Thank you for asking that. I don't see your face, but I know you're out there somewhere at the moment. But so it's interesting because there's a couple different techniques when it comes to being with pain. Again, a lot of times, from a mindfulness perspective, if we're able to actually go into that sensation and be with that for a moment, we might actually notice things moving, like, in other words, often the perception of pain might actually be, pain might be perceived as pressure or something else. And again, no rights or wrongs here. It's just noticing the pain, being with that pain, recognizing if there's a story in that pain. Maybe noticing if the mind or the brain is making any associations in that pain in that moment. And also if we can reintroduce other thoughts, because with meditation, again, we're actually working with the pain receptors in the brain to help reduce the pain and to pump out those happy healing hormones. Another method is actually to see, feel, or imagine that pain having a color. And maybe as you breathe into that area, watching that color and that space of pain diminish slowly but surely. And but there are a few of the techniques and methods surrounding pain. But again, really being with, moving towards versus away from. and being in that moment. And that can be difficult sometimes. But again, when our body is more relaxed because our brain is pumping out those happy healing hormones, often it does allow us to start to relax. And often too, pain, a lot of times is the brain is due to lack of mobility. That's another aspect of pain. You know, it's our body's self-protecting mechanism that we don't move too far or do too much because of that. So again, another place and space, that relaxation and gentle, 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 gentle stretching can be helpful.
So Tracy, pain doesn't have to necessarily be physical pain too. You meant
Right.
when you said lean into it, you can also lean into emotional pain also, which I think, a lot of us have been coping with through these last numerous months of COVID, but just in general, because I mean, I've been told myself that, a lot of trauma, emotional pain, we hold in our muscles. So, relaxation obviously is, part of letting go that physical tension in our muscles, but also that emotional, just leaning in and allowing ourselves to experience that as kind of the way that we can release it. Is that the case, or can you speak on that?
I 100% agree. And again, as a trauma survivor, you know, one of the aspects that I've learned that's been really helpful in my healing journey is it's often said that a millisecond prior to the trauma setting in, our cells actually freeze those memories and they're locked in place until we unlock them. And for me personally, I have found that again, moving towards that place and of discomfort and really investigating from a sense of curiosity and loving kindness and really being my own best friend has helped that. But absolutely 100% that a lot of that physical pain can actually be blocked emotions.
So one of the questions was, are there any reputable recordings or podcasts that can be used repeatedly? And I know you mentioned Insight Timer, and I did put that in the chat, but do you have any others that you can recommend?
That's one of my favorites. And they actually have courses um, available through that. There's a free aspect and then there's a paid aspect. But for anyone that's looking for mind body meditation type practices and even to learn more, a lot more, there's wonderful things in there. John Kabat-Zinn is a pretty famous, he actually created MBSR, which is mindfulness based stress reduction, and back in the 70s. His work is always really good. So there's trying to think of a few other names. I'll make sure I include that on the handout as far as, again, individuals that can be YouTube as well. Sharon Salzberg is another one. She does a lot with loving kindness meditation. She's wonderful. And again, I'll put together some other things and so I don't take up more of the time now.
We got a question. Is there a limit to how much you should do per day? I don't know if there's a limit. As much as possible.
Right. So, okay, that's a great question though, because again, when we're practicing mindfulness, so sitting formal meditation is one thing. I remember Deepak Chopra some years back began meditating about 2 hours a day. And when he was in the process of brainstorming for a project in a book, actually, I believe that he was working on. But again, I would really highly recommend even starting out with 2 to 5 minutes a day, even if that's in the morning and in the afternoon. But back to the informal practice of mindfulness, that literally can become your life. And, you know, and you'll recognize the world around you changing as far as your relationship with yourself and with others. But again, simply by being in the present moment and engaging your senses. So no, I guess if we're using the informal practice of mindfulness, then no, I don't think there's any limit.
And I love how you spoke of, and I know you're going to share this in your handout, but just how you can take what you see and do every single day and turn it into a mindfulness practice, regardless of what your time limits and constraints are. So One of the questions was, can you talk about meditation as a refresher to help with emotional fatigue? And we all are dealing with some emotional fatigue.
Sure. So actually, let me say this about that. And by the way, I saw a question as far as where did I go? I went, is the Chopra Center, which is CHOPRA in Carlsbad, California. However, I want to say Miraval, MIRAVAL in Tucson, Arizona. And there's a new location in Austin, are also wonderful places and highly focused on mindfulness. Back to your question, Anissa. So ask me that one more time because I want this to sink in more deeply because my mind's going a few different directions with this particular one.
So meditation as a refresher to help with emotional fatigue. So using it to help us, I guess, to get energized,
Okay.
deal with that emotional fatigue that we're all dealing with in one shape or another.
Okay. So I would say smaller intervals first and foremost, but again, meditating and practicing mindfulness with something that each and every one of you love. And for example, those out there that have pets, you actually can practice mindfulness by being with your pet. And in the way that you would do that, I have two golden retrievers, my husband and I. And so one of the ways I practice mindfulness is again connecting with my breath and petting them, noticing the colors, the temperatures, the textures, noticing my own breathing changing, and so on and so forth. So really to answer your question, Nissa, I said the short answer is choose something you love and do it mindfully. Again, so even if it's for 5 minutes or whatever the case may be. Also too, another great practice that as a trauma survivor and that I utilize is being with myself in a way that I also recognize when it's time for a distraction, when it's time for a break. Because sometimes, being inside my body still might be a little too much from time to time. And in that scenario, I use an outer type, stimulant, so to speak, meaning as far as meditation. So like, for example, when we started out, I did that visualization meditation. So with that, it was like we were still with ourselves, but yet kind of outside of ourselves, if you will. Sound is another great place to connect when it comes to things like that. But again, mindful living recognizes when you're not in a place where you feel like you can be with that emotion in that moment, and you do need a distraction, giving yourself that loving kindness, maybe giving yourself a hug, and loving kindness meditation. We didn't have time to do that today, but I will include that on the handout. That's another beautiful practice where you see, feel, or imagine one that you love around you, and see, feel, or imagine extending them 3 well wishes. Maybe that's may you have peace, may you feel love, may you feel connection, or something else altogether. And those wishes coming back to you, and then to a neutral person, and then to maybe someone you're experiencing some difficulty with, and then to your community at large. And again, I'll include that in the handout.
Awesome. I think that will be very helpful. So we literally have like 2 more minutes. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to ask Tracy? And feel free to unmute yourself if you want to verbalize it. You've been really good at explaining things. I love the practicality of the stuff that you've shared today, because it can really be implemented in our day-to-day lives so much, easier than we originally thought. People, a lot of times, I think meditation is like this woo-woo stuff where it's very difficult to do, and it's actually just being aware.
Very much so. Any last minute questions from anyone?
I think you must have just given them everything they needed. Excellent presentation. So
thank you.
We will have this recorded up on our YouTube channel. We will include the handout so you guys can refer back to those practices again. Tracy, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and for walking us through some of these practices today. I thank you for everyone who's joined us. I hope you're leaving a little more refreshed than you came in. And if you want to give our wonderful speaker some gratitude by the hand wave that we give, we thank you all for joining us today. Thank you so much, Tracy. Everyone have a wonderful, wonderful, relaxing day. Take care.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.